we'd be standing in front of a house, and then all of a sudden the National Guard would come running towards us, like 40 guys. And they'd be like, get back, get
down,
back.
Down, down.
Pretty much, yeah. And they would shove us away. They'd push us back a block. And then they would go in and raid the house we were just in front of with like guns, dogs, everything.
Yeah, so they didn't go into my dad's house, but they patrolled the street in Cambridge, and they went up and down the block.
Mount Auburn was like where it was going down.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So you got there after one of the brothers was already dead, though.
Yeah,
right?
I got.
So
there.
you were there during the search.
Yep. Hi, I'm author journalist Dave Wedge, and this is my golden hour.
Oh God, what's going on? Where am I going? Dad?
Yes, my son. I am Deuce, the deer god.
I'm so confused. Who am I?
Derek. Your true name is Dercules.
Wait, what?
Yes. You are Dercules, the god of the forest. Season 5.
Hosted by your favorite podcast host, Big Bochi. You already know the deal, mother. What's up? The double clap signifies the start of an episode. So listen, I'm very persistent, but I had met this man to my right. If you're listening, he's to my right. If you're viewing, he's to my right. A couple months back, and I just kept slamming the lines. I was like, I gotta get this guy up.
I appreciate the persistence, man.
Well, thank you for coming, man.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Appreciate
thanks
you.
For having me. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So this is, do you want me to, for the episode, call you David or Dave?
I use Dave.
My father's name is David.
My mother always got mad. My mother said I named you David, but my name's Dave.
Like everyone growing up called you Dave?
Yeah, and that's my byline. It's always been Dave. So my mother got kind of mad.
It's a little more
that.
Hollywood, man. You've changed.
Hey, I'm
ever
Dave,
since the big
Hollywood
book deal.
Dave, man. You know.
I like that Hollywood Dave. So Dave, when I do research anytime I have a professional come up because I want to make sure I sound professional. But there was so much stuff to research, man. I didn't even know where to start.
I'm old.
You're storied.
I like to say seasoned.
Seasoned. But your career has just like shifted in the past like 2 years.
I've done a lot, man. I've been lucky. I've had a lot of cool gigs, and I've done a lot of cool stuff. You know. And
so, before we move on, do you kind of just want to give a quick synopsis of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, I'm Dave Wedge, and currently I'm an author and a producer. I've written 3 books with my co-author Casey Sherman. We did Boston Strong after the marathon bombings happened, which was turned into the movie Patriots Day with Mark Wahlberg.
Everyone knows Mark Wahlberg.
Everyone knows Mark. Everyone says, is Mark cool? And the answer is, yeah, he's a pretty cool guy.
He's the man.
He's a good dude. And then I did a book called Ice Bucket Challenge about another cool guy, Pete Frates.
Mm-hmm. Which was wild.
One of the most amazing stories I can imagine.
Well, you're a BC guy, right?
BC, yeah. So So after we did Patriots Day, the Frates family was looking to do a book. You know, and they've been kind of talking to authors and stuff, and they had talked to a bunch of people that they didn't end up going with. And they invited me and Casey up to their house, and we went up and met them. And what happened was they, you know, right when I walked in, there was an instant connection because of that whole BC thing. Like, I didn't really know a lot about the family before I went there because we were still in the middle of Patriots Day. So I was like, you know, kind of too busy to really check it out. But I was like, yeah, let's go meet them and see what the deal is. And they were awesome, and we had like a pretty cool connection there, and everyone in that family went to BC except for Andrew, and he's like the black sheep.
Like
everyone makes fun of him because of that.
Where did Andrew go?
He went to Bentley, which is another great school, but it's funny.
So my sister went.
My dad went to Bentley, so that's what we were talking about. I was like, well, there's still connections.
Is he big into business, your dad?
He's an accountant.
Oh, yeah.
He's an accountant.
My sister's totally corporate.
Yeah.
I'm the black sheep, but I went to PC, so I'm like your little brother.
I almost went to PC. That was my second choice. So.
But you were smarter.
No, I got to BC. We'll just leave it at that. But no, so then we did last summer we did the Tom Brady book. It's called 12, and it's basically like the story of Deflategate and kind of that whole courtroom drama and how that whole thing unfolded. And in the middle of all that, you know, we've been involved in a variety of different projects in different stages of development. Like, you know, the Pete Frates book was optioned by Netflix, and we're working with Casey Affleck.
Okay, big business. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're working with Casey Affleck on that. He's going to be a producer on it.
My favorite actor ever, man.
He's great, and we spent some time with him up with the Frades family. He's an awesome guy, and we're hoping that thing will get shooting this year. But it's these things take time,
Yeah, so that's one thing I'm learning about kind of the film industry is just like the inception of an idea to the actual final product, like very minimally will at least take 5 years most times. But I feel like you turn around the Boston Strong thing quick because it was like it was an opportunistic moment.
Yeah, that was a very unique project because my co-author Casey wrote The Finest Hours, which was the Disney movie with Casey Affleck and Chris Pine, and it's about a Coast Guard rescue down in Cape Cod. Disney did the movie, but Casey wrote that book like 12 years ago. And the book got optioned like 2 years after.
This is Casey Sherman.
Casey Sherman, yeah. And it got, the book got optioned like 2 years after he wrote it. And then it sat in development for like years, 5, 6 years. And then finally
Are they just waiting for the money to produce it usually? Or
it depends. I mean, every situation's different. A lot of times what I'm finding is it's scheduling with like the directors and the actors. Like an actor will get really psyched about a story and they're into it and they're going to do it. And they're like, all right, let's start shooting this date. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, actually we want you to be in the new Aquaman. And the dude's like, yeah, peace.
He's Aquaman.
But, it just happens. And, people come on and off projects. And to your point, you just got to be persistent. You just got to, like, a lot of what I do every day is talking to my agents. I talk to my agents like 3 times a week, at least, if not 7.
And so you're technically a writer. So
I'm a writer and a producer. So I'm writing books. We actually just got hired to write a screenplay.
Let's go.
We're adapting a novel from. We're adapting a novel into a screenplay. It's like a pretty dark, like story of domestic violence and this sort of stuff. And this company,
you really are from around here.
I am. Yeah.
You like all the grittiest stuff. Man.
Well, that's why they came to us. This company, they're called Straight Up Films, and they made an amazing movie that's actually my favorite movie ever. If you haven't seen it, Outside Providence. You ever seen Outside Providence?
A Farrelly Brothers classic.
It is.
I went to PC.
That's right. Yeah. So it's Peter's life story pretty much, and Bobby's actually. I've become a little friendly with Bobby over the years, and I always talk to him about that movie. Like, I'm obsessed with that movie. It's just, it has so much soul. You know what I mean? So
you want to do that in Boston?
I do want. I mean, I have a dream to make a movie like that someday. Not like that, but inspired by that. But so this project here, the company that made that. That was two of the women that were involved in making Outside Providence have their own company now, and they reached out to us because we're like doing Boston stories. And
I was going to say, is that totally integral to you from being around here? Like, I kind of want to be the guy to document a lot of these stories.
I mean, that's how it started. Now I don't care where the story is. Like, I'll do I just want a good story, but
in a check. Who doesn't?
You want to get paid to work,
yeah.
But I just want to do great stuff. Like, I don't, I'm not going to do a Boston story if it's just okay, just because it's a Boston story. Like, I want great stories. Like, and we've been lucky, Ice Bucket Challenge is a great story, and Deflategate's a bananas story,
Well, can I think we talked about this briefly, but dude, can we just make that Aaron Hernandez movie, man? That is going to be so wild.
It'd be one of the filthiest movies I've ever seen.
Oh my God. Who are we casting as the head star for that one?
That's the problem. Who wants to play that guy?
Well, who wanted to play the terrorists?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to.
They did a really good job, though.
Yeah, they did. That was a conversation we had a lot during that movie. Like, who the hell is going to want to play these two dudes? And they ended up. The kid who played Joker was amazing. That kid was a really good actor.
Yeah. So when they were casting for that part, I know you were probably a little less in creative control at that point, but how do they find somebody who both looks like the person and they think can deliver the message? Like that must be so tough.
The casting agents, those Hollywood casting
agents.
Shout
out to Angela Perry.
Yeah,
we're gonna get you up here, Ange.
People like Angela, but in Hollywood, and I think with that story in particular, I do happen to know. We weren't, we were just consultants. We wrote the story. We wrote the book, and then they optioned it, but they did let us be consultants. We were in a lot of meetings, so I did get a lot of insight into how it's done. And I know with those two characters in particular, Tamerlan and Jokar, that a lot of just random people that weren't even actors submitted because they looked like them, and they're like, I can play that guy. Like, they would just want to be actors, and a lot of them were dead ringers. Like, they looked like them, and they had a very specific look, those two dudes, you know?
For sure. And they looked very different.
Yeah.
Like, not to sound totally insensitive, but one of them looked much more Arabic, and one of them looked much more Russian.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is with guys like that, it's like, you know, that's the kind of role that, you know, for a young actor could go one way or the other. Like, you could be like, oh my God, that guy's a scumbag. He played the terrorist in the Boston bombings. Yeah. Or that's pretty ballsy that dude did that. You know, so
kind of like the guy who played Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network.
Yeah,
could have gone either way.
Or you look at, you know, the Zac Efron just did the Ted Bundy movie. You know, that was a big career risk for him, but I don't know if you saw that movie, but it's phenomenal.
It was great.
It was great, and he did a great job. I mean, Zac Efron, like,
That's
killed
my
it.
guy.
He's a good actor. We're actually, he's someone that we've talked about for the Pete Frates role, you know, and you know, some other roles for other movies have been in, you know, that we're involved in. He's someone I would love to work with. That kid's he's got talent. He really does.
He's got a strong jawline, that guy.
He's not a bad looking dude.
I'll be hotter than him one day. Just one celery stick a week for me. One celery stick a week.
Yeah, you got to stop eating totally.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna call it the GDP diet or the crucifix diet. So nothing or air. So so you develop the story, right? Mm-hmm. And I think something of value that a lot of people could take from this is like, okay, cool, you got this banging story. You've been the head reporter. You were in there like a maniac, which I'll get to, but how does the business work after that? Do you personally reach out to like Fox or 21st Century?
No, that's what my agent does. That's their job.
So you hired an agent after the book was done or beforehand?
This is weird for me to talk about because it just happened, and it's not. You know, I worked my ass off to get where I am, but
I can tell you,
the Boston Marathon bombings happened, and I was one of the lead reporters at the Boston Herald at the time, and I led the paper's coverage for that whole thing, and everyone knew while that was happening, like, this is going to be a movie. Like, everyone knew, like, it was so cinematic the way it happened. Horrible tragedy, you know, everyone respected that, but I think everyone was pretty certain, like, this is going to be documented in history, much like 9/11. Like, everyone knew there'd be 9/11 movies because it was just such a shocking live TV event that impacted so many lives, you know?
Yeah, and people want it to be documented.
People want it to be documented, and people want to know history. They want to know the truth, you know? So after that happened and it kind of winded down, Casey called me, my co-author, Casey Sherman, who was just coming off The Finest Hours, and we knew each other because he was a TV producer at Channel 4 for many years at CBS in Boston, yeah. And
they used a ton of that footage in the movie, too.
Yeah, Casey was an investigative reporter at Channel 4 for years, and so we had known each other for years, and he called, and he was like, listen, I think I'm going to do a book about the marathon bombings. Do you want to do it with me? And I gave it some thought, and I was like, you know, let me see. And then eventually I was like, you know, I'd always wanted to do a book, and I had some other opportunities with other cases I worked on over the years, but
you were that guy.
It just never panned out. Like, it was never a story that I was like, yeah, I want to spend a year of my life doing this, you know? But with this one, I was like, you know what? I seriously, like, I was like, listen, I kind of owed it to people to write this story. I was there. I witnessed it. I had all the connections. I knew the governor. I knew the mayor. I knew the police commissioner.
And you saw it happen.
And I saw it. You know, I was there. So I was out there in Watertown. So I kind of felt like I needed to do it, you know. And I was like,
as messed up as it is, it was God sent.
It was just something that, you know, someone had to do it. And I'd rather it be me than some dude from Hollywood that just watched it on TV, you know? So I wrote the book with Casey, and we busted our ass. We became really, really close with a lot of the survivors. And that was what was most important to us, was like, we want to make sure that they're okay with what we're doing. And there were some that weren't. You know, there were some that were like, no, we don't want anything to do with that.
We don't want you to commercialize this tragedy.
Totally respected that, you know, and, you know, I mean, look, you know, you look at these families lost, you know, the Richard family, they lost their son. Like, the last thing they're thinking about is a movie. You know, they don't care. They want their son back, you know, so I get that. But at the same time, you know, I'm a journalist and I tell stories, so that's what I do, and that's what we did. And the long-winded answer is the next thing that happened was...
so did you feel like you had to walk on eggshells that whole time? When you were writing, I'm sure like you're posting up in a Starbucks or something every day, hammering words away. But once the story was developed, were you like, wow, this is like heavy stuff. I kind of have to really watch what I do here.
It was overwhelming, you know, and like I said, it was a huge responsibility. You know, you got, you know, literally everyone from the FBI down is going to look at this story, you know, and analyze it. You know, I mean,
You got some balls, man.
well, you just had to. Look, I've been a journalist for 20 years. You know, I've done tough stories. It was a big story, and that's why there was two of us and two guys that A, give a shit, and two, know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the fact that you care is like was probably so
It's a big
important.
deal.
Especially you moving forward with it. I'm sure you were dealing with so much stuff. It was like, you know, I actually in my heart, like I think I really need to tell this story.
Yeah, that's how I felt, and I definitely think there were moments during the, you know, production of Patriots Day where we had some fights with people about different things, that people that were involved in the production that we disagreed on, and we tried to tell them. You know, we had some knockdown, drag out, screaming matches where we were like, listen, you guys, we're the guys that have to still stay here in Boston and look these survivors in the face. So get this fucking right, because I don't want to be the one that they're like, yeah, you're an asshole, you fucked that movie up, you know?
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. Is when this thing went to the screen, you were probably so anxious, like, yo, they better tell exactly the story that I put in the book, because they could spin it.
No, not really. Like, I'm not telling Pete Berg what to do.
Yeah.
Pete Berg is a hell of a director, and he's
Great
a smart guy.
Friday Night Lights is my favorite.
Yeah, and he really, you know, the biggest thing I learned on this was that Pete Berg busts his ass. Like, he was out there interviewing people, talking to cops, talking to the FBI, talking to survivors. Like, he did his homework. You know, he hits the ground, and he's got a big team that help him, and so he did his homework. So we were just glad that he kept the spirit of the story, and we think that the stuff that he incorporated some of his own stuff into the script, and the stuff that he used from our book, we think he was true to, and we think we think the movie's great. You know, we think they did a good job. It's a hard movie to watch because it's sad, you know, and
yeah, it's gritty.
It's gritty.
It was very Peter Berg like the way he directed it, like
yeah.
very Lone Survivor. Like he showed it when it was gruesome.
Yeah.
There were
it's funny.
the explosions were so gritty.
We went to the premiere with a bunch of the survivors that were our friends, and you know, we were worried obviously what they were going to think, and their reaction was, from a couple of them, two of them said this to me, was that, you know, I was like, were you guys upset by the bombing scene, you know, because they were there and blood and legs and all that, and they were like, you know what, they were like, it was actually in the movie it was less gory than it was in real life. They were like, it was way worse. So like they could have made that worse.
Wow.
And so I was like, kind of like, whoa, like I thought they were going to be upset and traumatized by it, but they were like, no, it was way worse than that.
So they were kind of satisfied.
They were. They all thought they did a tasteful job on it, and that was important to me. And you know, look, I think the movie's done pretty well. I think when you watch it and people watch it, yeah, I think.
Thank you, man. It was awesome.
Yeah,
Great
no,
moment.
I mean, I'm like I said, I mean, I'd rather have someone like me that was involved directly do it than some jerk that just was like, yeah, let's make $100 million thriller, you know.
So.
And Mark too. I mean, Mark had a vested interest too. Remember, like, he still has his family and friends in Dorchester, and if he made a shitty Boston Marathon movie, like, he would have heard it.
Mm-hmm. But come on, who else is gonna star in the?
No, I'm saying like he had a vested interest in getting
you knew
it
when
right.
this thing was turning into a movie. Like, all right, I'm either gonna get Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. Or Mark
Well,
Wahlberg
originally
in this movie.
Casey Affleck was originally attached to it.
Oh, was he?
The original script, yeah, but it was a little darker. The original script was a little, the lead cop was a darker guy, which is the truth, which is our book.
My ACL. Say hi to your mother for me. That's that classic Marky Mark. So question, and again, I want to make sure I span as much as I can, but
Sure.
So I was actually, my parents were split. I would never, ever stay at my father's house overnight. Surprisingly, the week of the marathon, I stayed at my father's house in Cambridge, and he lives off Mount Auburn Street.
Yeah.
So I was there.
That's right over there, yeah.
Like right there.
Yeah,
I had heard it that night.
Yeah.
Our street had shut down. So I was watching other interviews of you. So you get a call like, yo, there's this massive chase going on. Were you popping like Major League Adderall during this time? Like, were you up for like 8 straight days?
No, I was up for like probably 40 hours though. Like I got
Dude.
I got home on Thursday, and they had just released the pictures.
And there was this feeling in the city like, what just happened? What's going
right.
on?
So Thursday, the president was here, Obama, and Deval Patrick and Mayor Menino, and they all spoke at the church, and I covered that. And then I went and wrote my stories. I was in the newsroom till like 10 o'clock or so. Got home. I lived in Dorchester at the time in Savin Hill, and my wife had our son who was only 2 weeks old. So this mayhem is going on. We got a 2-week-old baby at home. My wife is a reporter too, but she's obviously on maternity leave home with the baby. So
She was with the Herald also?
she's a columnist with the Herald, Jessica Heslem. So I got home, and it was like, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I finally thought, I was like, all right, they just released the pictures of these dudes. It's going to take some time before they find them. I was like, I can hang out with the baby, get up tomorrow morning, have coffee, and go to work. No. I took the baby on my chest and turned on the TV, and immediately an alert came up that there was a cop killed at MIT. And I literally took the baby and gave it back to my wife. I was like, I got to go. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, it's got to be connected. MIT cop getting killed, it just doesn't happen. And there was a convenience store robbery too, and I was like, dudes on the run do that sort of stuff. They rob convenience stores and then they kill a cop. That's unfortunately. So my boss called and was like, head over there. So I started speeding over towards MIT, and as I was on the way there, we heard on the scanner about the bombings over in Watertown. So he's like, get to the corner of Dexter and Laurel Street in Watertown.
And you mean the hand explosive devices?
Yeah, they were throwing grenades at the cops.
I heard them at night. I remember.
So, and that's what's crazy about it. My boss was like, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know why they in this neighborhood. We didn't know, maybe there was a safe house and there was 20 terrorists we had no idea what was going on.
The images were released at this time though, correct?
Yeah, but nobody knew why they were in that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So maybe they were meeting with more guys that were going to help them do other stuff. That's what we were thinking. We were like, maybe they have a safe house and
maybe
a bunch of guns.
Maybe they weren't just too inexperienced
right.
idiots.
At the time, everyone was like ISIS, Al Qaeda. Who are these dudes?
I remember ISIS tried to claim it too. I remember that.
Yeah. So, it was scary. It was scary, and my boss was like, that there's a shootout. It sounds like they're throwing bombs at the police, and I was like, they're throwing bombs? He's like, I don't know, hand grenades or something. He's like, it's a battle zone. He's like, get your ass over there.
So you're getting that Lexus? Is that what you?
No,
you drove here?
not that. At that time, I was still at the Herald, so I didn't have the Lexus.
Okay, that was before the big deal.
That was when I was on a newspaper salary. So
you were in the Subaru.
I think I had a Camry at the time.
But you still got married.
Yeah, I did.
So you drive that over into Watertown.
Yeah, and I dumped it.
Where'd you park?
I dumped it at the crime scene somewhere on
right near that CVS.
Yeah, it was no, I was on Dexter and Laurel, where the bombing happened. No one was there yet. So when I got there, I dumped my car and I got out, and there was smoke everywhere, people running all over the place, stadies with guns, confusion. There was a couple other people from the media there. I actually ran into a fellow reporter of mine from the Herald, and she looked completely traumatized. I was like, what's going on? She's like, I don't know. And a photographer was like, no one knew what was going on. They were tackling kids because they were looking for young guys. And there was, remember that neighborhood, there's a bunch of bars. Mm-hmm. It was 1 a.m. Dudes are leaving the bar drunk, getting tackled by cops. No one knew what was going on. And then my car actually ended up inside the crime scene. They put up the police tape. My car was inside it. So I couldn't leave, even if I had wanted to.
I know.
And I ended up just staying there through the night. And
all your Adderall was in the car, so you were tired.
I didn't have a charger, so I had no phone charger.
Wow.
I had no food, no water, and then they shut everything down.
So are you, during this time, do you have a notepad in your hand? You're looking around? I had a
notepad. Yeah, I had a notepad, but I did, I was on, so I got in trouble because I was on Twitter, and I was tweeting everything that was happening. I was live tweeting. And the head of the Boston police actually called me. The head of communications was like, Dave, stop your tweeting. You're letting these guys know. If they're watching your Twitter, they know where we are. You got to stop. And I was like, so now I'm balancing people's right to know with public safety. Mm-hmm. So I stopped. I didn't stop totally, but I stopped saying exact addresses. I was like, cops now. But they were we'd be standing in front of a house. And then all of a sudden, the National Guard would come running towards us 40 guys. and they'd be like, get back, get
Down,
back.
down, down.
Pretty much, yeah. And they would shove us away. They'd push us back a block, and then they would go in and raid the house we were just in front of with like guns, dogs, everything.
Yeah, so
I was
they
like,
didn't go into my dad's house, but they patrolled the street in Cambridge, and they went up and down
Yeah.
the block.
Mount Auburn was like where it was going down.
Yeah, I know. So you got there after one of the brothers was already dead, though.
Yeah,
right?
I got.
So
there.
you were there during
Yeah,
the search.
Yep.
And so I remember they advised everyone stay in your house, and I had driven. I was like, all right, I just don't want to wait here all day. And so that day I had driven, and the streets were so eerily empty and quiet. It was like
You could have got arrested for doing that.
Well, then I actually didn't do that. I was at the house all day. But they were so eerily quiet. It was like you could just cut the tension. It was so scary.
Well,
because everyone knew that dude he was not out of state. They knew he was in the circle. They knew he was somewhere.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the cops thought he made it to the T and might have been on his way to New York or got out of town because they didn't. There was talk that he was actually found outside the perimeter. They did a 20-block perimeter, and he was found at like block 21.
And I remember they were afterwards. They had passed the boat a couple times, right?
Yeah. So they were afraid that he might have got out. They thought he was wounded, but they weren't sure.
So you stayed the whole time?
Yeah, I stayed until they caught him, yeah.
So where were you when you had found out that he was caught?
I don't even remember. I was on one of those streets over. I think I was near Watertown Square, I believe, and I remember there was like a bar restaurant over there that I was kind of working out of. I was writing stories and communicating, and I finally found a
Was it Mount
charger.
Auburn Grill?
Might have been right in the square there, and then what happened was, all of a sudden we just heard tons of cheering, and then we heard there was cops out there, and we heard on their scanners we heard that he was in custody, and then there was like a parade of fire trucks and cop cars, and everyone was sirens and all that, and Menino got on the air and thanked everybody, and it was crazy.
What a wild time!
Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts.
So, the 40 hours is over, right? And I'm sure you're just totally strung out, no sleep. You're seeing the craziest shit you've ever seen, chaos.
Second craziest shit I ever saw.
Oh, you saw 9/11 too, right?
Yeah.
So did you feel like you were somewhat more prepared for the second situation because you had already seen it?
Totally.
Because you had known what real chaos was like.
Much smaller scale. You know what I mean?
But same fear, though, right?
The same fear, and you mentioned the eerie streets. Like that's exactly the same. Like, you go down Boylston Street, and nobody's on it. That's bizarre. You'll never see that. Hopefully, ever again. It's awful. It's a terrible feeling. It really is.
As a journalist, though, you kind of sign up for stuff like this, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you don't hope for it, but it's like kind of your job.
Well, it's funny because so the morning of 9/11, when I got sent down there, it might have been the next day. I did a live interview with Dennis and Callahan on EEI, and I was down at Ground Zero, and Dennis asked me that. He's like, "Well, as a journalist, this is what you sign up for. You want the big story." And I was like, as a young journalist, like I always was like, yeah, I want to cover a big, huge story.
How old were you at the time of 9/11?
I was 31. 31. Yeah.
I thought you were 26. The math isn't making sense, man.
I'm only 29 now.
Okay.
No. I'm old, bro. I turned 49 last week.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
That's not old.
Yeah, it is what it is. I can't control it, but
you'll be here till you're 130.
I hope. But they asked me that question, and I was like, I remember when I first got to the Herald in 1999, I was always like, I read the Herald my whole life. I was like, I want to cover these big stories. That's awesome. Like, I want to do that. But then when a story comes that's that big, you don't want it. It's too big. Like and that's what I said on EEI that morning. I was like, this story's too big. Like, nobody wants to cover this. I liked covering like a real interesting murder case, so like serial killers, or stuff like that. But terrorism, man, I don't want to cover that. It's awful because that's just horrible. It's just the uncertainty and the fear that it inflicted on the entire country.
Have you always just been very inquisitive, though? Like, has that always been kind of your thing? Like, you want to get a deeper meaning to most stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been analytical, I think, and I was always, I always wanted to write. I knew I always wanted to write books and movies, but I didn't know how to get there. Like when I was a little kid,
your grind is untraditional, man, but I love it.
It is.
Awesome.
I mean, it's my path, and it. It's working for me, and I'm happy with what I do. But like when I was a little kid, like me and my friends used to write fake movies, and we used to record like fake radio shows, and would, write little stupid books. Like, so I always wanted to do movies and books. I just didn't know how to get there.
So in retrospect, you knew that this was where you are now.
I knew it's what I wanted to do, but it's not like what I'm doing right now still isn't even exactly what I want to do. Like, I love.
You're gonna get there though.
I love the nonfiction. Like, I love telling these amazing stories that I'm so lucky to be able to tell. But I do have a story, like we talked about at the beginning, like an outside Providence type of story
Something
in
more
me,
cinematic.
something that I want to get out at some point in my life
You will.
before I'm 130.
Cast me, man. I'd love to be in it.
Yeah, no, I
If you need an Efron like stunt double type thing.
yes, exactly.
So, yeah, so I think that's also very interesting because you're now like your career shifted in the past couple of years. And so when you're grinding as a reporter, I'm sure you enjoy it, but you kind of have that Boston hustle in you. So like the whole time you're grinding as a reporter, where you're like, you know what, if I just keep doing my job really well, eventually I'll get to this next level.
Yeah, that's kind of what I always thought. I mean, there was kind of two paths for me. It was like, at some point I'll do a book and maybe it's good and maybe it does well and I keep doing books, or I do a book and then I just keep being a reporter. That was path number one. Path number two was maybe I just keep doing well as a reporter and then maybe I go to TV or maybe I go to radio or something like that. And
That's what the kids call a glow up. Glow
yeah,
up.
Thanks for that. I'll
Sure.
use that one. But
You're from Brockton. You
it's
should know
harder
this
to
stuff.
glow up today than it used to be. It's harder to do, like in the media business. It's really hard to move
transition.
up now. There's just nowhere to go. The business is not in great shape. So it's like, even if you go to TV, it might not even be a better job.
Well,
so to
it
speak,
might not be around in like,
Might not be around, right?
but Netflix will be.
Netflix will be, exactly. So because I had a lot of reporter friends that had done books and they just stayed reporters. It never really, the books didn't do that well or whatever. But we've hustled and we've written some good books. So
So what was that like when the internet came around? And like, because dude,
So,
one of
yeah.
the craziest things is when you drive past the old Globe office
Oh, yeah.
on Morrissey Boulevard.
oh yeah,
It is like, dude, the internet destroyed this place.
yeah. Well, it destroyed a lot of media. I mean, the internet's a blessing and a curse, right? I mean, it's connected us more than ever, but it's destroyed a lot
Some
of businesses. It's destroyed travel agents. It's destroyed newspapers,
Bookstores.
Bookstores. Yes, not completely, but
Borders is gone. Barnes and Noble.
Borders is gone, right?
Barnes and
Yeah.
Noble embraced
True,
the internet.
true.
So
Yeah, true.
that's something Jerry taught me.
Yeah.
I'm listening, Big
Yeah.
J.
But yeah, no, I mean, I remember, when I started at the Herald in '99, like, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't even have cell phones. And then I remember when we got the first internet terminal, there was one in the library and you had to go out there and use it. It was like a dial up and you had to get a password and all that crap. And then I remember we got Nextels. Do you remember? You're probably
The
too
chirp.
young. Do you remember the chirp? Yeah, we had those. And and then it
And you had a beeper, I'm sure.
I never had a pager, but
you weren't big business.
All the photographers had pagers because the police would send out alerts for like incidents over the pagers. It was like a subscription service. But then I remember, internet obviously became more a part of reporting, but you still, like, everything wasn't online then. Like, you couldn't Google stuff and find everything. Like, now everything is on the internet. It was, and that was a slow evolution. But the real change I remember the most was Twitter in 2008
For news.
for news. When Twitter like first came out, I was like,
Were
oh,
reporters
that's kind
pissed?
of weird. Well, the big one was the movie Sully, the Miracle on the Hudson. When that boat landed, some dude on the plane tweeted about it, and that's how the news broke. All the news picked it up from Twitter. That was the first time that I remember that really a major news story broke from just some dude
Social
on Twitter.
platform.
Social platform, not a reporter. And that was a moment where I was like, all right, we're in trouble here. I was like,
I better
we
download
can't-
Twitter.
I was like, we can't break news anymore, because we used to break news. Like, we'd get a story from the police or the fire or a politician, whatever, and we'd put it on our website, and then people would see it on our website.
Kind of like Spotlight, like the
Exactly.
movie. Because I remember they're holding on to the
Yep.
story about the priests, and they were holding on to it and holding on to it,
Yep.
and then they just broke it.
That's how my life was early in my career, And
It's fun though for you, right? Like it probably invigorated your career a little bit. You're like, all right, I got to be on the ball now. I got to switch things up.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm active on social media, obviously, and it's been. I think
That personal brand.
I've used it pretty well in my career, but I'm not like a massive Twitter dude because now I'm writing books, and it's like, what's in my book? Like, no one's going to know that until the book comes out, and no one's going to steal that and tweet it, So it is a little different than news. Like daily news, like you get busted every day by Twitter,
So that's a good segue too. So on a Casey Affleck tip, love Manchester by the Sea, right? And so the guy Kenneth Lonergan,
yeah.
How do writers make money in between big projects? Like he wrote Manchester by the Sea, which was huge. Before that came in 2016. Before that, there was a movie in 2011, and then he was like a writer on Gangs of New York in 2002. So do these dudes just make a massive check and then just wait for 10 years? Or
everybody's career is different, but like I have some friends. I have a friend who's a screenwriter for Warner Brothers, and he's like a staff screenwriter, and nothing the dude has written has actually been made into a movie, but he gets hired to like rewrite scripts all the time. He does rewrites. He just hired, and then like, they'll say, hey, we want you to do a script on this, and he'll spend a year, and they'll pay him a salary, and he does it. So there's writing gigs out there that guys can get, but you have to get that first one. Like now we are getting writing gigs. Like I just told you, we got hired to write this screenplay. That's something that wouldn't have happened had I not done Patriots Day, You got to get that first one. And then there's also, again, you talk about the internet. I mean, the indie film community is huge now. Like I have a lot of friends that they'll go out and raise $1 million and they'll just make the movie. They'll hire a cameraman, they'll hire a crew, they'll hire sound guys, they'll hire, pay the actors, and they're getting like legit actors. Like there's a movie that just finished filming in Rosendale called Last Night in Rosie, and Jeremy Sisto's in it, he's on like CSI or something. That
you were telling me this last night.
Yeah, the blonde woman from Hall Pass is in it. That what's her name? I don't know. You should have this stuff. You're young, but
we're on camera. Who looks more handsome, me or Dave? I'll give it to Dave.
But my point is, they raised. I think they raised $500,000 to make that movie, and that's going to be a movie. It'll be on Netflix. It'll be out in theaters, and it's a damn good movie. So, someone got paid to write that. So there are writing jobs out there that guys can find if they're good.
Like you.
You got to hustle.
I love the hustle.
No one's going to knock on your door and say, hey,
here's $1 million.
Here's $1 million. Write books. You got to go get it.
So you are from Brockton?
I am.
Also,
yes.
how are my questions? Am I doing good?
You're doing great.
I'm trying to hold myself professionally.
Doing great.
So you're from Brockton.
You've sworn less than I have, so that's good.
I didn't hear many swears. Did you, Jack? I want to make sure your 5-year-old son can watch this.
When he's 20.
No, what's crazy thing about the internet, though, is the one thing I like is I've done stuff on the internet for a long time, and I love the fact that it's documented. Like,
it is good.
My come up. Like, I love it, And so when me and you in 10 years, right, we're working on a movie together, an awesome movie, right?
Yep.
We got a huge movie in theaters. It's all over Boston. We can at least say, look where the relationship started.
That's true.
Or like your grandkids will be able to watch this interview.
Yeah, true.
So shout out to your grandkids. What's up, everybody? So yeah, you're from Brockton.
Yep.
And you're also somewhat connected to Boston music. You understand it.
Yeah,
It's shifted a lot. I got a lot of kids who are connected to Boston music who tune into the show. So I don't know if you know this, but Brockton is like glowing up. It's like a much more cohesive group than what's going on in Boston right now.
That's cool to hear. I mean, it's always been a good music community in Brockton. It's a rough town, as you know. And
yeah, did you see Wayne?
Wayne, no.
So there was this YouTube series shot by this guy from Brockton.
Oh, yes. I never watched it, but I heard about it. Was it good?
Jack, did you see it? It was like real. It was directed very different than anything I've ever expected. And I know people in Brockton were like, "Dude, this is the most stereotypical movie web series of all time."
Yeah. I mean, look, I went to a huge high school, 5,000 kids, and we had
there's some stories about Brockton High.
I mean, we had dudes. So one of the kids that I went to high school with was a guy named Garfield Bright, who was in a group called Shy.
Sounds like a serial killer.
No, dude, this kid was he's a G, dude. This dude's
Garfield
awesome.
Bright?
Garfield Bright is his name. He went to Howard University, and he joined an R&B group called Shai, Shai.
And if I ever,
Yep.
you know, fall in love.
That's it. That's them. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Are they all Boston?
No, they were all from Howard University.
I will be sure that the ladies are friends.
How do you know that song?
They did it a cappella. I love it.
All right. So Garfield was a classmate of mine. So, and then there was a kid named Chris Bender that was he had just signed a huge record contract and he got murdered in Brockton. Jeez. And he was like that kid was going to be a big star. And then the kid Pooch Johnson, he's from Brockton.
These sound like so many old head names, man.
Pooch Johnson's on a show now. He's like a TV actor. Pooch. I think it's Pooch Johnson, I believe is his name.
It sounds like the most classic, old guy talking about a guy from back in his day.
But
Pooch
he's
Johnson.
on TV now. He's on some show. He's a young dude though. He's younger than me. He's like I don't know, his 30s maybe. But my point is, there's always been a lot of creative talent in Brockton.
It's just moving very cohesive now.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, shout out to Giles and shout out to you.
Yeah, we were just talking about Giles, and I just discovered him. I saw him on Twitter, and I listened to his album. It's great.
They have a great group that's called Van Buren, and so there's like 7. Actually, I don't, maybe more, but there's just a group of like producers and artists that are kind of like coming up together.
That's great.
It's wild.
I mean, I think I come from the older guard on the rap side. I'm a metal guy, but I also was into the rap scene for a long time too, and Slane's a good friend of mine, and a lot of those guys, and I knew like Ed O.G. and those guys that were the original Boston guys. Like Ed O.G. had some big hits, back
what
in
about
the day.
Benzino?
RSO? I knew Benzino. I knew Ray, and
you were reporting at the time.
I got in some trouble with Ray. Ray got a little mad at me a few times.
Why'd you say some stuff about him?
Yeah, with the Paul Pierce thing. When Paul Pierce got stabbed, it was all connected to like Ray's boys and
you are been part of so many classic stories.
Made Men. Yeah, I covered all that, dude. Ray was real pissed at me because I wrote some stories for the Herald about how Made Men was involved, and But RSO was great. I mean, that One in the Chamber, that was a very controversial song. That was, I believe, it was part of the Tipper Gore hearings with the PMRC when they were trying to put the parental advisory stickers.
Yeah.
I believe RSO's One in the Chamber was one of those songs, along with like Twisted Sister and NWA, Ghetto Boys, all that shit. Because RSO was pretty big, and then Benzo started The Source magazine.
Still around.
So there's been a ton. Now you got guys like Cousin Stiz that are just blowing up. And
He's got
it's
a big
nice to
tape
see.
coming.
It's nice to see. And
you got a really good pulse in the city. You have a really good
dude,
pulse.
I've been around, man.
I know.
A lot of people. I know a lot.
Would
of
you
people.
ever move?
Nah, I don't want to.
You love it too much?
I love Boston.
But what if William Morris hits you up and say, "Hey, listen,
I'm good.
Dave Wedge, I got a $10 million check for you, man.
I'll be bi-coastal then.
Your son can you can pay for your son to go to BC High now."
Nah, I'll be bi-coastal.
Oh, yeah?
I'll always
Back
be
and
here.
forth?
Yeah, I'll always be here.
Yeah, I don't really. I will definitely leave at some point, but I love the city, man.
I mean, look, a lot of people say you got to leave if you want to make it. But I don't.
No one's
believe
working
that.
hard enough.
I don't think anyone has to go anywhere anymore. I mean, look you can live anywhere now and do this stuff. Yeah. The internet.
So this is a nice shot from Seaport. Who took that? Stock image?
No, I don't know where that came from. I think the girl who designed the website took that, I believe, or it could be stock footage.
I actually love coming over this bridge because then you feel like you're entering into like a tunnel of buildings.
Yeah.
How about the Seaport? How much has that come up since you?
Dude, so I
used to be a
talk
lot.
about, again, old guy stuff. I mean, I used to go to the Channel.
Wow.
Which was, now there's that great podcast that my buddy Nate Holman, have you had Nate on yet?
I haven't.
So Nate writes for Metro and he writes for Dig Boston, and he's got a podcast about the Channel, and that's a wild, Boston story. And, the Channel was like this dirty old rock club down on Fort Point, right on the Channel. That's why it was called the Channel. Mm-hmm. And that's all that was down there. And like when you went there, like you literally felt like
telling us about this.
You felt like you had taken your life into your hands. Like it was in a wasteland, and there was like zombies walking
Would
around.
you go down there?
I went to a bunch of shows there. Yeah, it was a punk.
See, I'm starting to realize though, to be a good like reporter and in media, you got to have a little bit of tact in you, man. You got to be able to just put your life on the line.
You got to throw caution to the wind a little bit,
Like would you bounce around Roxbury and Dorchester a ton?
Oh yeah, I used to go hang out. Yeah, I used to always go hang out.
This is my guy.
Me and my buddy from BC, we used to. Everyone else is going to Boylston Street and like Faneuil Hall, and we would go into like Dorchester and Fields Corner. We'd go to the, places.
So you've always loved just pushing the limit.
I just like to explore. Like we used to go to Slade's, have drinks at Slade's, and it's like.
What was the Naked Eye around?
I've been in the Naked Eye many times.
The Combat Zone. Yeah. We learned that from someone else.
The Combat Zone was a scary place, man. Like
Was
that
it?
neighborhood is like beautiful now. Like you would.
Chinatown, right?
I knew a dude who got beaten with a bat with a nail in it down there, and he put in the hospital, almost died. Kid I played hockey with, his brother.
Wow.
Billy McGaffigan was his name.
Wow.
And my dad used
and that.
He's
Also
like,
sounds like another
don't
old
go
head
to.
name.
He's like, don't go to the Combat Zone. You'll get a bat in the head like Billy McGaffigan. My dad used.
But
to
you're
say
like, Dad,
that
I'll
to
meet
me.
my new girlfriend though.
But yeah, no, I mean Boston's changed a lot. I mean it was a blue
dump.
collar
Some places
tough
was a
city.
dump,
There was
yeah.
some bad neighborhoods. Like where I live, Savin Hill, stab and kill. It was a dump back in the day.
When did you shift from Brockton up to here? Just when you started writing?
After BC, after college. Yeah, I lived in Brockton for a few years after college, and then I moved back into the city. I moved to Southie. Lived there for like 3 years, and then met my now wife, and we moved in together, and then we got a place in Dorchester, and we were in Savin Hill for like 10 years.
And that Boston Strong check came in. He said, I'm moving to Milton.
I stayed in Dorchester for a long time
Oh, yeah?
after that. But what actually happened was the real estate market in Savin Hill went so bananas and then we had our son. I was like, we can make a lot of money on this condo because we bought in Savin Hill like right before it started. It was like right around 08 before it started taking off. So we made good money on the condo, and that allowed us to move to Milton. So,
Not to incriminate my dad financially here at all, but he had built his house in Cambridge for $40,000 in the Mount Auburn neighborhood, and it's probably worth well over $1 million now. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. I mean, they're selling condos in Dorchester now for $1 million.
Well, think of the seaport, too.
It's crazy.
Think of Fort
Well,
Point.
back to that. I mean, so when the channel was open, that's literally, there was the channel, and then there was a place called Polyesters, which was like an old disco that was right across from where the Spirit of Boston
Does your wife know about this?
She knows about all of it. And then there was a place on the water called, it was called the Seaport Grill, I believe. And those were like the only places you could go. And there was, of course, Anthony's Pier 4, but the rest of the place like was all parking lots.
The Trade Center was there or no?
The Trade Center.
The big white tent?
No, the pavilion, that's all.
The Trade Center is where we go to
the
the
Trade
ski
Center
expo.
came in, I don't know the timeline there, but like there was no commerce. Like it was a working waterfront.
Did you know at the time though it was going to be a huge commercial boom?
It happened fast, and like we always talked about it. Like me and my wife and my friends, I was always like, this is waterfront property looking at the city. Why has no one developed this? But it was, if you do the history, it was the federal courthouse was the first piece of it. And there was a developer named Frank McCourt that owns the LA Dodgers. And he owned a bunch of that land down there, and he held it hostage. And then he eventually cashed in. And then Jack Hines bought a bunch of it. And now, WS Development owns it all, so it's...
Do you know everybody in the city?
Most people. Dude, I was a reporter for 14 years at the Boston Herald.
So you got into reporting for the right reasons, right? Was there ever a point in your career where you're worried, you're like, dude, I don't want to just like start gossip in the city? Because that's one thing that's tough for me with the show is like it's media, right? I just really want to just like develop a relationship with someone and build it. I don't want to like start anything with anyone or say something stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
how did you navigate that?
I always struggled with, I covered politics for a lot of years, and people drop dimes and try to ruin people's careers. So I did struggle with that responsibility at times. It's like I had to make a judgment call. Like, is it legit to blow this guy up or is it not? And there was times where I thought it wasn't, and my bosses thought it was, and they did it anyway, but my name was on it, and I felt bad about it. But there were other times where, like...
Did anyone ever come for your neck?
I mean, I got threats many times,
You should bring it. I'm from Brockton.
No, I remember... I got chased out of a crack house in Worcester once.
What were you doing in the crack house?
I was interviewing the family.
This guy's sick.
I was interviewing the family of a prostitute who got murdered. There was a serial killer out in Worcester, and I was there, and the girl started talking to me, and then there was a bunch of dudes in the house, and they were like, who are you talking to? And she was like, the Boston Herald, and they were like, fuck the Herald, fuck the media, and they just started getting pissed, and they chased me out of the house.
Wow.
And my photographer was coming in, and I was running. I was like, dude, get out of here, run to your car.
Go.
So we ran to our cars and took off, and then...
and then you were smiling the whole way home.
No, I was scared. I was terrified. I could have got I got bum rushed, dude. I
You're
could
still
have totally
smiling
got
though.
killed.
I know there was a rush.
Listen, the truth is, like, when you're in a situation like that, like, you're not a cop. You don't have a gun, and you're by yourself.
You got those Brockton mitts.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if there's 5 dudes and
One
one
of
of
them
them
has
has
a pen
a gun.
in their hand, and the other one's
Yeah.
got a notepad.
Exactly. I'm not going to do much with a pen. But, things like that, and people would call you and make threats, as, and eventually then it became emails, and now it's on social media.
Tweets.
Yeah.
We hate you, Dave Wedge.
But I'll tell you that I've never seen worse stuff. I never received the kind of threats that my wife receives.
What does
she
she
gets
cover?
more horrible stuff. Like, she's covered a lot of news, but just the things that guys will say to women is messed up. Like, they take it right to that other sexual level
it's
that we
easy.
don't get. They'll be like, "I'll kick your ass." They'll be like, they start throwing around sexual assault threats. It's awful, and a lot of women deal with it in the media.
Is that tough for you as a protective husband?
Yeah, it makes me pissed, but she's tough. She can handle herself, and most of it's just like keyboard cowards. You know what I mean?
Stupid.
Yeah, but there's been a couple of sports radio guys that have said some stuff over the years on the air, and I've had some words with them.
Fisticuffs ever? Or?
Nah, I'm not. I'm old. I'm not gonna go fight.
You're Brockton, man.
Yeah.
So, if you could, so another question is, there's now this. It's not recent. It's been a grind, and you've seen it happen. But how does Boston entertainment's market grow in total? Like, I think we were talking about this a little bit, but like, the city kind of needs like a studio or a music label or something to develop real commerce in the city. These big films come here and they get tax credits, which is awesome. And some people have said like, well, for those like little extra parts, they should hire local talent and stuff like that. But how does that happen where Boston becomes like a rivaling entertainment market similar to like a New York or LA?
Well, we're never going to compete with New York or LA. It's just not going to happen.
Truth bomb, boom.
It's true. I mean, the infrastructure there is just too. You're talking 150
deep.
years. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just. We're in a great time in media and entertainment. Anyone can do anything from anywhere. It's a gig economy, and I think Boston's benefiting from that. All these movies come, and these people. I have a friend of mine he's a technical guy for the movies. He does all the electronics and electrical and all that, and
That stresses me out.
he's working all the time, man. There's constantly productions here now, so. I'm on my own now. So what you said before, a writer will get paid and then you don't get paid. Like, I get paid and then I don't get paid for 6 months, and it's like, that's a little scary. I don't have a steady stream of income like I used to when I was a reporter, but
you're nuts. You're meant for this.
well, and I also just think it's the economy we're in now. And if you want to do what you love, like, you might have to just go get it. And you might have to go get a job. Like, if you want to work in the movies, like, there's an opportunity to work in the movies in Boston now. You just got to go figure out how to do it and figure out what you're good at, and then, you might have to move to New York, or maybe you get hired to go do a movie in Toronto and then you come back. Like, another friend of mine is a producer. She works for HGTV. And she does those like house flipping shows, and she's a producer on it. And they'll hire her for like 5 episodes, and then she doesn't work for 6 months.
She's a line producer or executive producer?
She's a line producer, yeah. So, my point is, like, you don't have to live in New York or LA to get these kind of jobs. You just have to get the connections.
I mean, like, yeah, but you understand what I'm saying? Like, how do people
Yeah,
make
the infrastructure.
real money here?
Yeah. Well,
Will that happen?
these people are all making real money. I mean, Ben Mesrick's making real money, and he lives on Boylston Street. Bitcoin Billionaires, his book is one of the number 1 books in the country right now.
Let's rob him.
So, there's the big studio out in Fort Devens. You know about that, right?
Yeah.
There's a giant
The
studio.
Megaplex.
Yeah, there's a giant studio, and that's a busy studio. And there's a friend of mine runs a company called Media Boss, and
That's not 4 Point Media.
they're busy all the time though. Like, I think my answer is like, is Warner Brothers going to locate here? Is some giant record label going to open up here? Like, probably not. But there's tons of opportunities, and there's tons of people doing. I mean, look at what you told me about the guy here, the engineer
wild.
here. I mean, that's a great example. Of there's a lot, and he's just one. There's a lot of people doing that. I know. I have a friend in Taunton that's a producer, and he does major label stuff all the time. You know, they'll send him, hey, go to see this guy. You know, he gets post work, you know, and stuff like that.
Dave's direct, and he's blunt. But I do want to hear a little more optimism out of you. Come on, man. It could get bigger. It could get bigger than you're imagining it.
No, I think, yeah, I mean, look, I mean, you got City on a Hill right now, which is on Showtime, just got renewed.
Smilf.
Canceled.
Bummer.
But, you know...
Central. You seen Central Intelligence?
I haven't seen that one. No.
Dude, the all-star cast in that movie is unbelievable.
I got to see it.
I know.
But, you know, Ryan Reynolds is filming a movie right now here. Adam Sandler's filming one in Salem right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is pretty big in Boston. I think, you know, if you had to... It's probably like L.A., New York.
Georgia, Atlanta.
Yeah, I think Atlanta and Boston are pretty much next. And
Toronto and Vancouver.
Toronto, Vancouver. Those are like the second-tier markets. I think we're a second-tier entertainment market.
Back to my point real quick about the Central Intelligence all-star cast. So, yeah, so there was The Rock.
The Rock, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kevin Hart?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then third, there was Connor Holloway was in that one, which was... How did they cast him? He's got a great agent, man. That's pretty wild. I heard he had like 2 seconds of screen time.
Angela Perry help you with that?
Shout out to Ange, man.
Yeah,
I actually have not met her, but Ange, we're going to get you up here. I've been hounding your assistant. She's a boss.
She's busy lady. Like I said, they're filming a lot of movies right now.
I love that hustle, though, because she built it on her own.
Yeah.
I love your
well,
hustle.
you know,
You did it on your own.
There's 2 casting agencies in Boston now. There's also Slate, which is huge, too. So that tells you something. If there's 2 casting agencies in the city, it's growing.
Are they looking for like tall 6'3" white dudes
Maybe.
with a body fat percentage of about 7?
Play a young Drago.
Whoa. He could play. He's Aquaman's like little brother.
I got to see Creed 2. I heard it's good. Did you see it?
I saw Creed 1, not Creed 2.
I haven't seen 2 yet.
Michael B. Jordan's great.
I got to see that.
So if you could, well, this is how we'll end it, right? Your movie comes out, the outside Providence but outside Boston type film. Don't give away any of your ideas because I know you've probably been manifesting it for years. I got a crazy film idea that I'll tell you about too. But you can have an all-star cast. If you got 5 actors, give them to me.
Oh, that's a tough one. Put me on the spot.
That question?
That's tough. I mean, you know, I'd have to put Casey Affleck in there.
Nice. Good choice.
He's
That's
one
my
of,
guy.
He's one of my favorites.
And who do you want to direct it if you don't direct it?
Oh, man. Jeez, I don't know. These are tough questions. You should have let me have some prep with these.
I thought of him.
I mean,
maybe 10
obviously,
seconds ago.
the Farrelly brothers, is who I'd want to direct.
He's being political.
No, I'm not at all. I mean, I think
Farrelly brothers.
They do movies with heart. They do movies with spirit. You know, and there's a lot of people that do. You know, but
do you like?
I
did you
love
like?
their work.
What's it called?
Green Book.
Note?
Green
Green
Book. I haven't seen it yet. No, I haven't seen it. But
what's your favorite Farrelly brother besides Outside Providence? It's got to be me, myself, and Irene.
No. I like Kingpin. Kingpin's good. That's good.
Ladies
Kingpin's good, and actually, I think Hall Pass is a great movie. I think it's funny and
Something About Mary's great.
Something
Brett
About
Favre
Mary's
comes to the outside.
They're all-
What's
they're
this
all
dude doing
good,
here?
I mean, the Stuck on You's funny.
See, I love their stuff because you know it makes them laugh.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's awesome.
Well, I told you got to get my buddy Chris Meyer on here, who did.
Will you vouch for me?
I will. He did 20 movies with them, and he's worked with them for years, and he'll tell you a million stories. I mean, they had so much fun making those movies.
Okay, so you gave me 3.
I only gave you one.
Well, you gave me the Farrelly brothers, which is like
Okay,
the directing duo.
Actors, huh?
Female lead.
Female lead. I mean, I like Michelle Monaghan. I like her a lot. I love her. You know, obviously Patriots Day as well. But Jennifer Lawrence, amazing.
I love J Lot, man.
Yep. She's great. She's a talent. Who else for actors? I don't know.
Bix, who are you going with? I'm not taking that front.
Yeah, Zach Efron maybe. But if we're talking the kind of movie that we're talking about, it'd be probably a little too gritty for Zach.
Dude.
But he did play Ted Bundy. You got to watch that. And I want to hear what you think about it.
And he played a smoking hot lifeguard.
He did.
Andy played everyone's favorite basketball star.
He did.
And
True.
wasn't he also in The Lovely Bones or The Winter's Bone?
Uh,
Oh no, Zach St. Cloud something.
oh yeah, no, yeah,
Dude, Andy was in a million Disney movies.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
man.
and Neighbors,
Neighbors is great.
pretty funny. He's good in that too.
Know who's awesome? I love James Franco. One of my
James
favorites.
Franco, yeah.
His little brother's hilarious, Dave Franco. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen in 21 Jump Street? He's like, I'm supposed to go to Berkeley.
Yeah.
That shit is hilarious, dude.
I like. You know who I like is that kid Jay Baruchel.
Jay Baruchel.
Yeah, I like that kid.
Ugh.
He's funny.
You like deadpan humor?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I like.
Do you like
him
Ellen
in,
DeGeneres' deadpan humor?
No.
Come on, I love Ellen.
Go away.
I do. I think Ellen is she's such a good conversation
Oh
facilitator.
God, she's awful.
Come on, don't say Ellen. If you ever see this, I have utmost respect for you.
Did you see? She's out of my league. That's a good movie.
I have not.
That's Jay Baruchel. It's funny.
I really like the Judd Apatow movies.
Yeah, some of them.
Oh God, here's his Brockton competitive side coming out. All right, so listen, we're gonna wrap this up.
All right.
I had an amazing time.
This is fun, man. Thank you.
But
Appreciate
your
it.
job's not over, Captain Tattoo. Listen,
okay.
this is how we start and end the episode. You say hi, your name,
Okay.
and this is my golden hour. Directly after no break, hi, your name, and that was my golden hour. And if I were you, we're gonna loop this at the start and the end. I'd give 4 Point Media a little sales plug.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
So what am I saying?
So normally I don't tell people twice, but I guess since Big Hollywood's here, I guess we have to. Hi, I'm Dave Wedge, everyone's favorite journalist / author / screenwriter,
And this is my
my
golden-
golden
okay,
hour.
cool.
Directly
Got it.
after the same thing, but that was
Okay.
start and the end.
Gotcha.
Mr. Media, you got it?
Am I looking at the camera?
Yeah, we'll do this one.
Hi, I'm author journalist Dave Wedge, and this is my golden hour. Hi, I'm author journalist Dave Wedge, and that was my golden hour.
Well executed, Jack. Ready?